According to my watch, it's 3 o'clock. According to my watch, it's 3 o'clock. Time to call to order the Board of Directors regular meeting for Monday, November 20th. You have a roll call, please.
Director Meyerhoffen.
Here.
Director Duff.
Present.
Director Griffith.
Present.
Vice President Sewell.
Here.
And President Martin.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Okay, we're going to skip item 3 since all our board members are present. Ivan, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Hand over your heart, ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Counselor, would you cite the rules of procedure? He's not here.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here.
okay.
So
Did
I'll
you-
be happy to do that. All notice meetings are conducted using Rosenberg's Rules of Order as a procedural guideline. Directors should refrain from responding directly to public comments at meetings of the board. The president of the board presides at all meetings of the board and decides all points of order and procedure during meetings. No person should be allowed to speak who has not first been recognized by the president. No member of the board should speak more than once upon any one subject until every other member of the board wishing to speak on the subject shall have been given an opportunity to speak. The board president regulates the amount of time to be dedicated to a particular agenda item.
Thank you, Counselor. Moving on to item 6, public input. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters within the board's jurisdiction. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. State law prohibits the board from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the agenda. Do we have any members of the public wishing to address a non-agenda item?
Not online, President Martin.
Anybody here in the room? No? Okay. Moving on to, we're going to do human resources report, but before we get started on that, I would like to recognize our interim general manager, Brian Macy, in his 4-year anniversary with the district. In 4 years. Wow. Why wouldn't
Time flies when you're having fun.
it does. It may be only 4 years on paper, but it feels like Brian has been a part of our district for much, much longer. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. He has been instrumental in the development of our new regional plant, the new administration building, and countless other projects. His background in engineering and strong managerial qualities have made him an indispensable member of our team. On behalf of my fellow board members, I would like to thank you for your service to the district and our customers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll move along to the other members in the Human Resources Report. Brian, you going to take the lead on that?
I will. Thank you, President Martin. I'm pleased to introduce some of our dedicated and loyal MSWD employees. At first, I would like to talk about our new hires. First, Andrea Valara, who joins us as an associate engineer. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Cal State Polytech in Pomona. She's very familiar with the water industry. She's worked on various projects involving hydraulic analysis, watershed management, pump stations, pipeline projects, water, wastewater treatment, and construction management. To further introduce Andrea, the engineering manager, Eric Weck.
Thank you, Interim General Manager Macy. President Martin, members of the board. I'm Eric Weck, the Engineering Manager for Mission Springs Water District. Today, I'm really happy to introduce Andrea Varela as our new Associate Engineer. She comes with a lot of experience in both the water and the wastewater projects and has proven over the past month to be a valuable valuable part of the engineering department. I believe Andrea would like to say a few words. Andrea.
Good afternoon, board members and district staff. It is my pleasure to be here and to be a part of Mission Springs Water District. I look forward to applying my experience and my knowledge to the important work that the district does. Thank you. It's very nice to be here.
Thank you, Andrea. Next, we have Arthur Cabrera, who is a business analyst for us. He holds a bachelor's degree in business administration management. He has extensive experience in accounting, financial, and organizational analysis. He's worked for the Riverside County Treasurer Tax Collector, as well as the Auditor Controller's Office, and most recently with the City of Palm Desert. To introduce Arthur is our Director of Finance, Arturo Ceja.
Thank you, Kurt. President Martin and members of the board, it is my pleasure to introduce Arthur Cabrera. He comes with a lot of experience in the government sector, as Mr. Macy just pointed out. With the prioritization that we're doing with the improvements of the district in some of the areas that we need help, he comes with a lot of that experience that we're changing. His primary focus is going to be with customer service, addressing some of the issues we've had in the last couple of months, primarily with communication to customers, the analysis of the data that we have in the system. As you know, we have an outdated system that the data is there. We just can't use it. We just need the people to be able to pull that information. Arthur's doing a great job so far looking at all of that information. And we're very excited because, again, he's going to be focusing on these areas of improvement. Again, I just wanted to welcome Arthur. He said he did not want to speak today, but I just wanted to, again, say how grateful we are for him, starting with the district and his years of experience in the public sector.
Thank you. To Andrea and Arthur, welcome aboard. Any comments or questions? From the board? Okay. Moving on to anniversaries.
Yes, October is a popular month for new employees. In addition to the 2, we have 8 anniversaries. That means we have 10 people starting in the month of October, which is roughly 20% of our workforce started in the month of October. Very interesting. First, we'd like to honor our lead field operations technician, Alex Escovedo, who's worked with the district for 4 years. Alex's coworkers describe him as someone they can rely on to complete urgent tasks quickly, no matter what gets thrown his way. He's a team player and goes out of his way to offer guidance and advice to his team. Here to introduce Alex is our field operations superintendent, Jeff Nutter. Jeff?
Thank you, Brian. Good afternoon, President Martin and members of the board. Alex has been a huge part of the construction maintenance department, in his 4 years here. Just recently with the Hurricane Hillary that we experienced, he's been a very crucial part to out potholing each location, getting pipe depths, footage that we're going to need, a lot of analysis that we sent over to the engineering department for, the reconstruction of some of this stuff. So I just want to say thanks to everything he does. He's got staff out there updating all of our fire hydrants with color coding, flow testing, make sure they work, clearing around them. So thank you, Alex, for everything he's been doing. So he's been a really big part of our department. So I don't know if he wants to say anything or not.
Thank you for another year. Look forward for another one. Good one. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Alex. Next, we'd like to honor wastewater treatment operator 2, David Weaver, who has also been with the district for 4 years. Pleasure to work with. David performs various tasks involving monitoring, regulating, maintaining, and operating wastewater facilities. He transitioned from collections and has greatly expanded his knowledge of the treatment side of the department. And in September, he passed his grade 3 certification. Here to introduce David is our Chief Plant Operator, Lee Boyer.
Thank you, General Manager Macy. Good afternoon, President Martin, members of the board. Yeah, David's a great person to have on staff. He's been in treatment for a year now. He's learning everything he can. He's studying to even further certification higher than the grade 3. He's going to start working on his laboratory analyst certification. And a couple of years down the road, he'll go for his grade 4. I can rely on Dave to do just about everything in the plant, from sampling to operating a loader, working on ponds. He's a good person to have on staff. David, would you like to say anything?
I just want to say thanks for the opportunity for working here, and I look forward to many more years.
Excellent. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, David. Next, we would like to honor our water production operator 2, Tim Owens, who's been with the district for over 5 years. Tim has general knowledge of all water-related subjects, which makes him a vital team member for the production team as well as the construction maintenance. There are one thing that's not widely known, you can see by the smile on his face, he has a very unique sense of humor, and there are many days where his sense of humor gets me through the tough afternoons here. Here to introduce Tim is our water production and maintenance foreperson, Chad Finch. Chad?
Thank you, Interim General Manager Macy, and good afternoon, President Martin, members of the board. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to say a few words about Tim. I consider Tim as really a key member of the water production department with his 5 years of experience with this department, and I'd say a stellar memory. It's great to know that he's just a phone call away with an answer to your question. So whether you're wanting to find out what the GPM of a particular booster pump is or what happened to a particular well maybe 3 years ago, Tim likely has the answer. At least he's got some information about it. And so it's good to have him as part of the team. He's a great team player, and I'm certain with great confidence that all of his coworkers really enjoy working alongside of him. And so again, it's great to have him as a part of this production team. So he didn't want to say anything on the during the meeting, but he is here watching and participating in the board meeting.
Excellent. Next, we would like to honor our lead wastewater treatment plant operator, Andy Gannett, who has been with the district for over 7 years. Andy is a great employee to have on staff. He takes care of the daily operations at the Horton plant and is constantly working on training others in his department to get them to the next level. Here to introduce Andy is Lee Boyer.
Thank you again, General Manager Macy. Good afternoon again, President Martin, members of the board. Andy is my right hand. He keeps the plant running effortlessly. He keeps an eye on my backside to try and keep me out of trouble. I appreciate everything, Andy, you do for the plant, keeping it going, all the weekly trainings you do for the guys. Andy and I have been integral part of the right plant design, and we're always over there. The monthly meetings, we walk around, just take pictures, talk about how the plant's going to run. So we're looking forward to that coming up in the next couple months. Andy, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, Interim General Manager Macy, President Martin, and members of the board. I appreciate having the 7 years here, and I appreciate my team and my staff that we have around us. We have a great team, and we continue to do all the hard work that we can. So thank you guys for everything. We'll keep pushing forward.
Excellent. Thank you, Andy. And Andy is one of the reasons why we have complete confidence when we open up the second plant that we'll be able to continue to maintain what we have and do it very well because of his experience and Lee's tutelage. Next, we'd like to honor our customer service manager, April Scott, who has been with the district also for over 7 years. During that time, April has been instrumental in developing our customer service portal and customer service programs and offerings. She has an understanding of customer behavior patterns and engagement, and she's been an integral part of MSWD. Here to further introduce April is Arturo.
Again, thank you, Interim General Manager Macy, President Martin, members of the board. I want to take the time to acknowledge April's 7 years of service and dedication to the district. She has made significant contributions to the customer service department in the district. She cares about the district and our customers, and you can see that in everything that she does. And she does a great job showcasing our 7 core values. April, thank you for your dedication and hard work, and I'll pass it on to you if you want to say anything to the board.
I would. Thank you, Arturo. Thank you, Interim General Manager Macy, President Martin, and members of the board. I would like to thank MSWD for the opportunity to serve the district and the community. I take great pride in the district and the service we provide to the customers of the district. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, April. Next, we would like to honor our executive assistant, Dory Petit, who has been with the district for also over 7 years. She's been responsible for serving the board and now assisting Government Affairs Office. She takes great pride in her work and is dedicated to the district and community. She's been very helpful in me in getting up to speed on what we do here at the district, but also all these things that go on behind the scenes, she's responsible for, working with the board, making sure that all the information, the agendas are up to date. We can't operate without her. Here to introduce Dory is our Government and Public Affairs Manager, Marion Champion.
Thank you, Interim General Manager Macy. Good afternoon, Board of Directors. I'm sure the dedication and quality of Dory's work are no secret to all of you. She is detail-oriented and ensures we regularly meet deadlines and all legal requirements for all of our board-related activities. Aside from this, though, Dory also supports the entire executive team and has recently taken on new responsibilities in the Public Affairs Department. I am very excited to be able to lean in on her organizational skills to help me with our bill tracking and provide me with assistance with many of the local meetings that sometimes conflict with one another. But what is probably the most profound about Dory's is her commitment to the district and her coworkers. As we all know, Dory has a very big heart, and that goes beyond all her Rotary activities. She cares about our customers and the district in a unique and inspiring way. Not only do we get to celebrate Dory's seventh anniversary this week, but we also get the privilege of celebrating her birthday tomorrow. And I believe Dory would like to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marion. I'm very rarely rendered speechless, but and actually this is not one of those times either. It's a really great feeling to be recognized for my hard work and dedication. And I'm glad to be a part of the MSWD team. Thank you so much for making me feel valued and appreciated. Here's to many more years of success and growth together.
Excellent. Thank you, Dory. We also have the privilege today to honor our Field Operations Superintendent, Jeff Nutter, who has been with the district for 29 years. In his 29 years, Jeff has seen almost every situation, including Hurricane Hillary, but also fire hydrants being sheared off by vehicles, contractors digging on our lines, leaks in the middle of the night. He's always been there for the district. He stayed the course, leading his team through emergencies while keeping routine maintenance and construction duties in check. Here to introduce Jeff is our Director of Operations, Danny Friend. Danny.
Thank you, General Manager Macy. Good afternoon, President Martin, members of the board. It is a pleasure to say a few things about Jeff. Wow, 29 years. That's a long time. Jeff is as dependable as it gets. When there's a leak or any other issues for that matter, Jeff usually gets involved one way or another. I'm not sure if everybody realizes that Jeff oversees more than just construction maintenance. When Jeff and his team aren't busy fixing leaks, replacing fire hydrants, or installing new water services, he's also very busy overseeing the buildings and grounds and the fleet maintenance divisions of the district. So ACs go out, something's not happening, trying to keep this building as hard as it is to believe upright. That's him and his team, making sure that we have vehicles that we can get in and dependable get to our leaks. That's Jeff and his team. So everybody just always thinks about the leaks, the fire hydrants, everything else, but there's a lot more to it. Regardless of what his position is as a superintendent, he's always there to take calls, which the district is grateful for. With more than 29 years behind him, which I believe is more than anyone here at the district now, he has a wealth of knowledge and gladly helps his team understand that and shares that anytime he has the opportunity. Not too many, and that's invaluable to many things here at the district. Not too many superintendents out there will jump in and work alongside their crews, and Jeff has no problem helping out. But that's the exact kind of person that Jeff is. When there's a situation, he'll get out there and he'll help his staff out. Either he's teaching them, mentoring them, or just happy to be alongside. He doesn't take compliments too well. That doesn't make him a bad person, but I know he's probably thinking something like it's a team effort. And they're a great team, and that's true. But that's likely not because he leads by example. So, Jeff, thank you for your hard work and dedication as a valued team member of the district. It's been a pleasure working with you. On behalf of the district, we appreciate having somebody like you as part of the team. Excuse me about that in the mic. And he is obviously here and would like to say a few things. Thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon again, President Martin and the members of the board. It's been a journey, I can definitely say that, it's been kind of an interesting journey from when I started back in '94 here, to see the equipment we had, see what we used on a daily basis to where we've came to today. And, with our new backhoes and closed cabs for the staff, that's all because of you guys. That's the approval to purchase these, equipment, vehicles. And it's made a big difference. I mean, in '94, the rule was we didn't have air conditioners in the vehicles. That's just unheard of now. That's because of how we've become such a great district. So I just want to say thank you for everything you guys have done throughout the years. I've seen a whole bunch here. Hopefully it doesn't stop. I mean, I'm still learning still, I'm out in the water system driving around and something will click and it'll dawn on me, I can use this valve to put water over here. So it's been a great 29 years so far, no complaints. And I hope it continues. So thank you for everything you guys done. Thank you, General Manager, Macy, for everything you've done. And I look forward to the years to come.
Thanks, Jeff. Jeff was also one of the ones that was up the entire night that we had the hurricane and all the things that we had to deal with. Him and Danny, I know we've talked about Danny doing it while he was on the phone with Jeff the entire time. They both worked over 30 hours that day in a row with very little or no breaks. So he was one of the most important parts to that and has been through the district through its 29 years. Obviously, he's got a lot of knowledge and he shares it openly. So very happy and thankful, Jeff, for everything you've done for us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
That concludes our HR report. Again, the board and I generally appreciate each of the employees and commend them to their dedication and commitment to our customers. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
I have a question. I noticed that there are some awards over there on the table to some of our employees, and I was just wondering if you want to tell us what they are. And
I'm sorry.
You're going to touch on it?
Yeah, during the GM report.
You're going to brag about yourself because
Yes,
part
just a little bit.
Part of it is yours. So, okay. All right. With that, we'll move on to public hearing ordinance 2023-01, an ordinance of the Board of Directors of the Mission Springs Water District adopted pursuant to the provisions of Water Code 2021 et sequitur, providing for compensation of directors of the district. Brian, you want to take the lead on that?
Sure. Thank you, President Martin. What we will have for you today in this presentation, we will have our legal counsel provide the process and how we're going to go through two different public hearings, or excuse me, one public hearing and then two meetings for the passage of this item. And then Marion will talk about similar things that we talked about discussion as far as how we arrived at the compensation level and some of the options moving forward. JP?
Yes. So today you're here for the public hearing on the ordinance that's in the packet. Today, the 20th, is going to be the first reading. We call it the first reading, but we're actually going to waive the reading, which is something that you're entitled to do. Otherwise, you would read the entire ordinance into the record, which you don't need to do if you waive the reading and adopt the ordinance. It will then come back to you for a second reading. So, for example, if there are any changes or alterations that the board requests today, those would be made. It would come back to you at a second reading on December 18th. And at that time, if the board so inclined, it would undergo final passage. And then after final passage occurs, presumably on December 18th, pursuant to Water Code Section 20204, the ordinance would become effective 60 days after that. And I also want to note that the public hearing was noticed in the Desert Sun on November 3rd and also on November 10th.
All right, can you go to the next slide, please? So as we discussed during our October meeting, our board is currently provided a $100 stipend for each day of service they perform with no cap or max, or with a cap of max of 10 meetings per month as outlined in Water Code Section 2. Our current 100 days per day stipend was adopted by ordinance in September 2000. Next slide, please, Dory. According to Water Code Chapter 2, increase the amount of compensation which may be received by members of the governing board of a water district above the amount of $100 per day. The increase may not exceed an amount equal to 5% for each calendar year following the operative date of the last adjustment of the compensation which is received when the chapter shall authorize compensation for no more. Excuse me, I just messed that one up. The authorization compensation for more than a total of 10 days in any calendar month. As you can see on this slide, should the board decide to move forward with the adoption of a $250 stipend, it is still well below the $307.15 mark. Thank you.
So I believe at this time, we would open it up to public comment.
Yes, I want to get to just have a clarification, because I believe somewhere in the text it says something about it would go into effect March 4th. That would be longer than 60 days.
Correct. The second reading would occur in during the December meeting, and then 60 days after that puts us into mid-February. We just wanted to start at the beginning of the following month.
Oh,
that's
okay.
why it's all the way into March.
All right. All right. Thank you. Okay, with that, I'll open up to public comments. I understand we have a person on the line wishing to comment on item 8. Dory, could you?
Yes, Mr. Betts, do you care to make public comment on this item?
Yes, thank you, or Chairman Martin and members of the board. I know each of you well, and the long hours that you put in your positions, and the long agendas that you read. It's not a position where you can just show up to a meeting like this and vote and then go home. It's been way too long since your board has taken up this issue of compensation. If I'm correct, 23 years. It's largely a volunteer position. I know sometimes the public wonders, why, there's increases, and I'm just here to lend support and encourage you to vote for this measure. You all deserve it. You all work very hard, and there shouldn't be any criticism of any action that you would take here today. So I'm encouraging you all to please do what's necessary for your board. The only last comment I would have would be that you put this on an annual adjustment basis, however you're able to do that, so that you don't get so far in arrears on adjustments that need to be made. That's it. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to make comment?
Not that they've made clear. So if there's any other members on the line who wish to make public comment, please unmute your mic. President Martin, there doesn't appear to be anyone left for public comment.
Okay, do we have anybody in the boardroom wishing to address this topic? And by the way, welcome City Councilwoman Jan Pye for attending the meeting. With that, and I'll entertain a motion on public hearing ordinance 2023-01. Mission Springs Water District adopt pursuant to the provisions of Water Code 2021 et sequitur, providing for compensation of directors of the district. Do we have a roll call vote, please?
I need a motion, President Martin.
I'm sorry. You're right.
And presumably they would be to waive the reading and adopt the ordinance.
Okay. Did everybody get that?
I'll make a motion to waive the reading and adopt the ordinance.
Okay.
I'll second.
Now, could we have a roll call vote?
Thank you. Director Meyerhoffen,
No.
Director Duff,
Yes.
Director Griffith,
Yes.
Vice President Sewell,
Yes.
President Martin.
No.
Pardon?
No.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay. Moving on to item 9, contract agreement with Intellis Communication Services for Information Technology Professional Services. Brian?
Thank you, President Martin. With this item, I would introduce our Director of Finance, Arturo Ceja. Arturo?
Thank you, Interim General Manager Macy, President Martin, and members of the board. As we have been empowered by our interim general manager to continue to look at areas of improvement in sections that we need to definitely take a look at, including those contracts that we've had ongoing for several years. Our IT services, as you know, is supplemental to the great work that our IT manager, Kurt, is doing. We do need people to look at our servers outside of normal business hours and to give us reports on the monthly work that they're doing that you should be looking at on every single month. We did look at the IT services contract that had been ongoing for over 20 years. And again, it didn't mean that we were not getting the best benefit, but if we are not looking and putting out the RFPs out there, we wouldn't know. With that in mind, we did end up providing a higher rating for Intellis as our IT services. We did provide you the summary of the ratings, including the top 3 companies that we rated for your review. And at this point, I would like to bring up Aaron and Rick with Intellis to provide you a brief overview of their company and what you should expect from their services ongoing.
Okay.
Good afternoon, board. We were thrilled to submit a response for the IT services for your organization here and take you briefly through our organization, who we are. There we go. You got to share. Yeah. There you go. By the way, we understood that Zoom heard we were coming today, so they cleared up the signal for everybody on the meeting, and it's better today as far as I hear. So that's good to hear. So Intellis, we've been in this business since 1994. I am the president of Intellis. I started it back in '94. We are a platinum member of MESAC, which is the IT organization of all the municipalities within California. They meet once a year to go over different things happening in the industries and things that government entities are looking at. So again, a little background on us. We actually started as a telephone consultant provider. And my background before that was restaurant management. The reason I say that is because both of those factors led to something in our organization which exists today, which is excellent service in the restaurant industry or in the telephony side. If you don't take care of your clients, they're not going to stay with you. So that's something that I think is a pretty important thing that comes from where we came from. And we progressed throughout the years, first going through Y2K, where the world was supposed to explode, and adding in technology and information services to the point where we do full-blown managed services for mostly municipalities. They're 85% of our organization's revenue. Taking everybody through COVID, which were some interesting years where probably a lot of this technology developed over the time. Good. So you want to take this one?
Yeah. So, like Rick said, we provide full service managed services for the public sector, municipalities, education, and water districts. And we have a wide range of services that we provide outside of that as well. As you can see from the slide here, one of which is the virtual CIO role. Rick doesn't like to brag, but he was actually the interim CIO for the city of San Marino for 14 months as they looked for somebody to fill that role, and really gave us the ability to see into how, you know, the municipalities and the boards and councils approved and budgeted, and we were really able to hone our services to align with those. So one of our biggest tenets is to provide a stable and predictable budget to our clients, that, you know, they can understand kind of what the technology needs are from year to year, without as many surprises as we can.
Kind of gives a breadth of our product base across Southern California. That's primarily our major focus. Any clients we have outside of that really probably originated somewhere here in Southern California. But we're locally based in the Inland Empire, have been since our inception back in '94. Some accounts we've serviced just recently in the last year, contracts we brought on, projects we do. So not only do we do the full source management of your technology services, but when it comes time for projects that you may need to implement or put in, we're going to make sure you're aware of those from a budgeting perspective and impact perspective, help you choose which of the types of technology that you may want to look at and help make that ultimate choice, and then provide the integration and implementation to your environment. So pretty much there's not anything you would need from a technology perspective that we're not going to be able to offer you within our contract. I'll let you take this since is your.
So my name is Aaron Betts. I'm the operations manager at Intelisys, and customer services is what I live and breathe. It's very important to me that my staff give all of my clients what I consider world-class customer service. Technology is 98% logic, 2% voodoo. And when things don't go as planned, the most important thing from my team's perspective is to really understand what the issues are, understand how it's impacting the customer, so that we can get to the root of the problem, not necessarily just the symptoms of the problem. To minimize as much as we can the downtime or any, you know, interruptions in the workflow. We have had very good success over the last 10 years, I guess, now that I've been with the company, in maintaining a very high customer service rating. We have a third-party survey that goes out with all of our service orders, and it's a blind survey. And from that, the Net Promoter Score ranks companies on their customer service. And we have been fortunate enough to be ranked high enough to be mentioned with companies such as, you know, Costco and Harley Davidson, Amazon, because of the ratings that we get back from those blind surveys, which I take pride in. In fact, the last, I think it's 14 quarters now, we have maintained a 97% satisfaction rating across all of our customers.
And one of the things I think is helpful here is any interaction any of your staff have with our organization. If we don't hit a minimum 80% satisfaction rating, which is kind of that customer service base level you want to go to, those surveys go directly to my desk and to Aaron's desk, so we can address those. Not that we're looking to point fingers at anything, but where in the organization did we fail in that communication with your end users and making sure they really receive the level of service we want to provide. So I don't know how much you want to go into the technical of what we do for your folks versus who we are. So we'd be happy to talk to you a little bit about that. Or if you guys would like to ask us some questions on our organizations, we'd be happy to do that as well.
Any questions from the board? Ted?
No, just a comment. Even though it looks like you're the only company here, I appreciate you taking the time to come and see us and explain and answer our questions. That tells me a whole lot about you. And
thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ivan?
No questions, but thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Amber?
Yeah, I should go last.
Okay, Robert?
I like what you're proposing here. I like the aspect of the being very involved, especially the two people twice a day. Someone on site twice a day is, I believe I saw that, which I really enjoy. I do have a comment. I'm shocked to see McDonald's rated all the way down there with Motel 6 because I really like McDonald's, but so I would question who they're asking. That's all I have.
Amber?
Okay, so I do have some questions, not necessarily about what you're offering to do for us, but just some concerns, not just for you, but for our staff who reviewed the RFPs. First of all, thank you for coming all the way down here and joining us in person. And I agree with Director Meyer-Hoffman. It says a lot about how the pride in your company and the fact that you take the time to come and speak to the board. One of the things I noticed in your proposal was on page 19, where you said that your attention to detail had been recognized by a national scale, on a national scale by the California State University system. And that's wonderful. We all need all the organizational and attention to detail is so important. And that is why I was a little brought to concern in reading through your documents, because Mr. how do you
Balzer.
Balzer? Okay. The last paragraph of your letter refers to us as the city of Rancho Palos Verdes.
Oh.
And then unfortunately, it didn't end there. It continued to do so in sections 5.1 on page 33 for the next 4 pages. And then on page 48 in section 5.2.8, where it continued to refer to us to the city of Rancho Palos Verdes. So a couple things, Interim General Manager Macy, I'm a little concerned at the review in that if this was the person you selected, our reviewers in our staff should have contacted you and asked you to correct that before we saw it. And I'm not trying to, it's hard for me to say this, and I'd rather say it personally in private, right? I don't like doing this. But at the same time, one of the things that I have expressed to our general manager and to a lot of the staff here is that the past management had a lack of attention to detail and had an issue in holding accountable the small details of contracts with our vendors and other contractors. So then when I am reviewing someone asking for a job, so to speak, and I see that our staff missed those small attentions to detail as you did, it concerns me. And so I just wanted to kind of make that known so that our staff can do better next time, and so that you can as well. You came in neck and neck with another presenter, and I'm not saying we didn't score correctly, but I don't think I should have to be a proofreader.
Yeah,
So
and if I could comment on that, I do some part-time teaching at Cal State Fullerton. And I say the same thing to the students I work with who are presenting themselves as professional, that spelling errors, those types of things are just a silly way to lose confidence in the person you're talking to. And quite frankly, it's an embarrassment to hear that. We do have an RFP team that does a lot of the legwork on those responses, and they need to tighten that up. We did come down here because we believe this is a relationship that's designed to get to know each other and be mutually beneficial. I certainly apologize for those errors in the report. And you were absolutely right to call those out. That's something I need to address internally. If it makes any difference, and I don't know that it really does, and I'm hesitant to even say it, the RFP arm is much different than Aaron's arm. Meaning that I know the competence I have in the service team, but there's just no excuse to what you're saying, and that should not have been in there. And I wish I could say there was a magic thing to take it away, but
and I didn't want to cause any kind of that humiliation. That was not my intent. I just don't have any private way to have that conversation. So
Yeah.
please understand that this is not a personal comment, and I've been a paralegal. I've made the mistake in trust documents. I understand how difficult it is to catch those minute details, but I also understand how important it is.
Sure.
So the only other concern and question that I have is more for our legal counsel, in that, are we able to move forward on the document as it sits and cast a vote without those corrections being made? Or do we have to have those corrections made before we can move forward? And that, I think, is for our legal counsel.
You were referring to the proposal that was submitted, correct? The error. Yeah. So obviously, if the district enters into a contract with this company, those errors won't be in the contract.
Okay. That was my concerns and questions. Thank you for hearing me again.
And they should be corrected. The correction should be made, and it should be resubmitted.
Okay.
Because it will likely be referred to in the contract.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I could just make one more comment on that.
Absolutely.
We appreciate that feedback. One of the things I will say is, I'm not going to stand before you and say we never do anything wrong. But what we will do is the things we do wrong, we make them right. So those comments go to help me as an organization. And I appreciate the feedback, because I would much rather know something that's not showing us well than to not know about it and not have the chance to correct it. So
Right.
again, I hope I know it's not reflective of what we offer. I apologize you had that experience.
It's okay. I was reading it on a plane ride yesterday, so I understand.
Yeah.
But I also want to just, from my perspective, and I think Mr. Kappenacker would agree, we're looking to your company to provide extra sets of eyes so that our mistakes are caught before the public sees them. So as long as we're on the same page with that, that is all the questions I had. And thank you for enduring the conversation. And again, I meant no ill by my comments.
None taken.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything further?
Now, unless you have any other questions.
Any other questions from? Anything further from staff? No. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And with that, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the interim general manager to enter into a contract with Intellis Communication Services.
I will move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
Yes.
Director Duff,
Yes.
Director Griffith, Director Griffith.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice President Sewell
Yes.
and President Martin.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay. Moving on to item 10, Public Water and Sewer Systems Construction Agreements, Water and Sewer Bonding Agreement, and acceptance of the final tract map for tract number 38200 in Rancho Descanso. Brian?
Thank you, President Martin. I will ask our engineering manager, Eric Weck, to cover this item. Eric?
Yes, good afternoon, President Martin, members of the board. At last week's study session, I reviewed this project with you and went through some of the particulars of it. Staff is just wanting council or board direction to approve the water systems construction agreements for water and sewer and other improvements. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the board? Ted? No?
I have none.
No.
I did save you for last, so. Okay. All right. With that, I will entertain. First, let me ask, is there any members of the public wishing to address this?
Not online, President Martin.
Anybody in the room here? No? Okay. Do we have a motion? I know it.
So moved.
Yeah.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kind of a roll call vote, please.
Director Meyerhoffen,
Yes.
Director Duff,
Yes.
Director Griffith,
Aye.
Vice President Sewell,
Yes.
President Martin.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion passes.
okay. Moving on to item 11, acceptance of water supply assessment and water supply verification for the Palm Springs Fulfillment Center. It is recommended to accept and approve the water supply assessment and water supply verification for the Palm Springs Fulfillment Center located in the city of Palm Springs. It's interesting. Brian?
Thank you, President Martin, members of the board. I will ask our engineering manager, Eric Weck, to cover this item as well. Eric?
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, President Martin, members of the board. And on last week's study session, I went through the project of the Palm Springs Fulfillment Center. It is in Palm Springs and it is within MSWD's district area. The proposed warehouse is going to be developing a 39-acre parcel that's located on the northwest corner of 19th Avenue and North Indian Canyon Drive. The WSA and WSV was prepared by MSA Consulting, and staff reviewed it, and we believe that it meets the requirements of a WSA, WSV. And so staff is asking that the board accept the water supply assessment and water supply verification for the Palm Springs Fulfillment Center. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Ted?
No.
Evan? Amber? Go ahead.
Thank you. I don't know who MSA Consulting is, but I have a question and I hope that it's just me not being knowledgeable enough yet, being new on the board here. But on section 3.2, page 16 of their report, I'm going to read it just so that no one has to quick flip to it. It says MSWD currently receives 100% of its water supply from groundwater production and does not purchase imported water from a water wholesaler. And then it says that CVWD and DWA are remediating the overdraft condition of the groundwater in the Upper Coachella Valley by the replenishment with Colorado River and State Water Project exchange water from the Metropolitan Water District in Southern California. These imported water sources are used to recharge the groundwater basin and as an alternative source to meet non-potable demands from irrigation of agriculture, golf, and urban uses that would have otherwise been met by pumping groundwater. The wording of this, if I were a person in the public reading this and myself, I'm asking myself the same question. What are we paying DWA for if we are not purchasing imported water from a water wholesaler? What are we? I'm just concerned that this wording was potentially not accurate, or maybe someone could explain why it was written this way.
Well, it's just standard language that has been used in water supply assessments for I don't know how many years, but the intent there is that we pay through the replenishment assessment charge. So we are bringing in or are purchasing water from a sense that it's through that fee, if you will, that's collected. So from that perspective, we're not actually buying other water other than what we're entitled to through our historical agreements with DWA.
I guess it just seems not accurate the way that first sentence reads, because although we have an allotment, our residents on every bill that they receive is paying DWA for the groundwater replenishment they're providing. So in a sense, we are purchasing water from a water wholesaler in that respect. So I just wanted to ensure that this wording was accurate and correct in the way that this consultant wrote it.
What we can do is we can modify that. We won't do it in this particular, but moving forward, we'll make sure that we distinguish between other water purchases that may or may not be made in the future versus what our allotment or what we've been paying for in the past, which is through the contracts that they have and exchange agreements they have for Met. So we will make sure that we add to that and clarify that language.
Thank you. I just think as leaning toward our transparency to our ratepayers, if they were to read this, they would be asking the same things I did before I joined the board here, and in that why. So I just think that should be corrected in the future. Thank you very much.
Okay, anything further from staff?
No, thank you.
Okay. With that, I will entertain a motion of the acceptance of the water assessment and water supply verification for the Palm Springs Fulfillment Center.
So moved.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
Yes.
Director Duff,
Yes.
Director Griffith,
Aye.
Vice President Sewell,
Yes.
President Martin.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to discussion items. Item 12, Nancy Wright Regional Water Reclamation Facility update. Is there anything new on the horizon?
Yes, thank you, President Martin. We do have our construction management team leader on the call, TKE Engineering. Terry, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect. Terry, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Interim General Manager Macy, President Martin, members of the board. I will share my screen here and we'll go through an update of what's going on. Is that coming through okay?
Yes.
All right, so as an update for the Regional Water Reclamation Facility, over the last month, the contractor has continued his installation of electrical work. This is some electrical conduit near the influent pump station. These conduits are running from the main electrical switchgear through some pull boxes and then terminating here near the influent pump station where there'll be a control module that will be installed in the future. On the right, we've got a downward facing photo of a picture inside the influent pump station with the 3 influent pumps that will be bringing water from the headworks into the treatment train itself. You can see the vertical rise piping that'll be carrying that water, as well as the pump guide rails that are installed on the front sides of those vertical pipes themselves. Those guide rails will serve as a way to bring the pumps up to the surface and be able to operate and maintain those pumps. Here we have a picture of the headworks. At the headworks unit itself, we have installed the covers for the channel system that brings the influent water in. That water is, very toxic for smells. So these channels will keep the smells and the odor inside the channels, where that can be pulled out and brought through the odor disposal system and help from emanating odors out into the air around the treatment plant. On the right side, we have the deragging units that are installed as part of the headworks as well. These are like a traveling screen that pull all the rags out of the influent water. And then as they pull the rags out, the screens help de-water that, and then we'll separate those rags into like a dumpster type disposal system. So what we have here is the SBR tanks and the air piping and valves that are being installed as part of that. On our left photo, we've got some contractors that are installing the anchoring units that'll be holding that actuator valve in place. And then on the right, we've got some of the air piping that is going to be delivering air to the SBR tank that's being installed. This is a zoomed out photo of the SBR tank. So the air pipe that we were seeing installed on the previous photos are those larger ones at the top. Those will be bringing air from the blower units into the SBR tank, and then that air will be transferred through those small white pipes at the bottom, which are fine bubbler diffusers. And that'll be basically diffusing small bubbles of air throughout the entire tank so that the microbes can have the proper environment to survive and dispose of the waste that's in the water. On the right, you have the same type of a photo, just a different view of the SBR tank. In the background, you can see the floating decanter. It's like the little blue buoy that sits in the back that'll float up and down with the water level. That pulls off the clean water from the top of the tank and then sends it off to the ponds for disposal. Here we have the AST tank, which is aerated sludge tank. This is also a floating decanter that's installed in this tank. This one does a little bit of a different function. This will pull some of the dirty water. That this tank has got more sludge and dirty water in it. So this decanter pulls the dirty water off of the top of this tank, sends it back to the headworks so that it can be treated again and then run through the system. On the right, we've got the yellow piping, which is going to pull the sludge off the bottom of the tank. And then that sludge gets pulled off and sent over to the belt filter press for dewatering of the sludge and then removal from the site. So here we have the channel that is being installed as a utility trench channel that it'll house the air piping that goes from the blower unit over to the SBR tanks. They're dropping on the tops to the duct system here in both of these photos. That air piping has to be installed above ground. It can't be installed in an underground manner because of the necessary expansion and contraction measures that it has. So this duct system was built so that it can house those air pipes. And here we have the spreading pond piping and flow meter on the left side. This flow meter will register and collect data for the amount of water, clean water, that is being pumped or pushed out to each one of the ponds. On the right side, you can see that same piping being buried in the bottom of pond 3. This is pond 3 on the right. And then in the background, you can kind of see the vertical rise piping. That pipe will ultimately dispense the water into pond 3, and it'll be receiving like a energy dissipating riprap structure that goes around the entire pipe so that there's no erosion as part of that discharge. Here we have the main electrical switchgear, which is in the operations building. I wish my house looked as clean and as nice as some of the wiring there. I opened my electrical panel at home and it definitely doesn't look that nice, but that's the current progress that they've made on the main electrical switchgear. There is still work to be done there. On the right side, we've got the operations building break room. They're installing all of the lighting and receptacle features in that room there. The Cummins emergency generator was received and installed. That's at the south end of the operations building. That's a self-containing unit, so there's no need for disposal or emergency waste curbing in case there's a spill or anything like that. Everything's housed within the unit, so that is in its ultimate feature and ultimate construction state right there. Here we have some more pictures of the insulation and drywall going inside the operations building. On the left, this is our break room again with the insulation going in. And on the right, you can see one of the hallways where the drywall has been installed. On the left, we've got our operations building break room again. I'm sorry, on the right is the break room. On the left, we have the I'm sorry, that's the laboratory. That's the laboratory room on the left side there. So there'll be some other chemical features that get installed in that room itself. Then we're going to move on to the conveyance line. So on the left side here, we've got a picture of the conveyance line going in with the locator tape that's being installed above it. And then on the right, we've got our geotechnical firm who's doing compaction testing for the trench restoration as we move up the surface there. Moving into the funding and permitting update. So for the phase 1 treatment plant portion, we've got the reimbursement request for Q2. That's been submitted to the regional board. We're just waiting to get approval and payment processed on that. For Q3, our invoice is in the middle of being put together, and we anticipate that being sent out in the next couple of weeks here. For the waste discharge requirements, we do have some work we're still working on with monitoring well 3. We are coordinating with the property owner to get approval to drill the 3rd monitoring well. And we have submitted that Q3 update to the Regional Water Quality Control Board. In addition to that, we are working with 2 different owners with private sampling wells to gain access to sample the water downstream of the discharge area. And we've also submitted that Q3 update to the Regional Water Quality Control Board. For phase 2 conveyance line, the funding budget approval has been submitted to the State Water Resource Control Board in previous months. We're still waiting to hear back from them on their final approval, so there's no updates as far as that item goes. And then the the final budget approval letter for phase 3 for the area M2 sewer will be submitted in the future. That needs to be submitted at the time that we go out to bid, so that'll be an upcoming item. And with that, I'll open up for questions.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Yeah, excuse me, yes. Are you having any trouble with vandalism out there or theft or anything like that?
No, surprisingly, we haven't had much issue with vandalism or theft. I'll knock on what I've got here because I don't want to encourage that by any means, but so far so good.
All right, great. I came by there today. And I took the dirt road in, and I noticed you had a lot of activity going on in the front side and drive up that way. They clear. But my next question is you have any water coming to the site yet?
Are you talking about the actual wastewater?
No, drinking water or any water at all coming to the site?
No water to the site right now. The discharge water will be scheduled. So right now they're still waiting for a couple of items to come in before they can bring water into the site. That would be Q1 of 24 as it's kind of scheduled right now.
The reason why I asked the question, because I noticed the water truck was over at the fire hydrant. And usually that's the fastest and easiest way to fill up a water truck. But I was just curious if you had any type of drinking water or when's the water going to actually come to that site? You have employees and that kind of thing there now. So I was just curious what's going on with that.
Stink to wash your hands and things like that.
Yeah, use the restroom. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all still running off their portable systems. The contractor has, porta potties and site water, like a water buffalo, basically, that they're filling up and using for those types of features.
All right, thank you.
Ivan?
Yes, my question's mostly on timeline. Has much progress been made with the issue there on Dillon Road from the storm, as far as completing the conveyance line? Is that looking like that's going to be our biggest holdup as far as getting the plant operating?
Actually, I don't see that being a holdup. So right now we are working with the city on that item. They have provided us a preliminary design for the roadway reconstruction. We've also revised our design for the force main within that section and provided that to the contractor for a change order. We are going to have to install a casing across that Mission Creek crossing of Dillon Road just to prevent any things like this from happening in the future. So we're currently waiting for the contractor to provide us back the change order response so that we can see what that pricing will be. We've asked him to identify if there's any long lead times associated with the work that needs to be done in accordance with this change order. And so far, it's looking like everything is, I don't want to call it shelf ready, but is going to be ready to the point where we're going to be able to deliver water to the treatment plant before the treatment plant is ready to have it.
Great, thank you.
Robert?
I know that we were having a delay because we were waiting on I want to say part, like it's a car, but a piece of equipment. And any update in terms of the timeline for that?
So far, we're still on track from what we've heard from the contractor to receive that. It's the MCC units. Those were scheduled to be delivered in mid-December, and we haven't heard of any changes to that date yet. So we're still anticipating receiving them by then.
And then this might be a question for Mr. Macy here. So obviously we've got this little delay going on because of the equipment. Phase 3, are we holding off on starting any part of phase 3 until this is up and running, or are we able to start laying some preliminary pipes to get ready so that when it's open, we can start to connect people?
Phase 3, the M2 section has not been bid yet. So we're still, I believe, modifying the plans to add the water line. Some of these properties still have rear yard easements for their water main. Since we're going to be in the road, we're going to take this opportunity to move those water mains into the road as well. So we're going through that process right now. So we're still amending the plans to get those water mains in there. So it's a little bit of an extra and taking a little bit extra time. But yes, we hope to bid this as soon as possible. It is one of the reasons why we are doing this entire project, to provide better service to our folks down there, including the M2 property. So we're working on that.
Okay, thank you.
Amber?
I just want to encourage or follow up, maybe it's happening, that TKE is sending emails to the state regarding the FBA and getting that approval on phase 2. And then also following up on the payment for the second invoice we've submitted. We're already paying contractors for the phase 2 work.
Yep.
And we've already paid them for the phase 1, and they're still invoicing for some of that work as well. We need to be on them weekly in writing, squeaky wheel. And I just want to reiterate that that's our expectation. And other than that, thank you for your presentation. It was very detailed. It's nice to meet you, and thank you very much.
Anything further from staff?
No, President Martin.
Moving on to item 13, Critical Services Center and administrative update.
Thank you, President Martin. This presentation will be provided by two folks, one internal, our new employee, William Witten, as well as Alvin Flores with Renault Clark and Associates. William, let's get started.
Yes, thank you, Interim General Manager Macy, and thank you for the opportunity, Board of Directors, to allow me to present this update to you. I am going to provide a brief project history, as you have all seen most of this before in the past in previous presentations. So as you know, this project's been going on for some time. And like I mentioned, this is a summarized history of the various steps that the district has taken to determine the best location for the new building. In January of 2020, the history of the existing administration building, budgeted corporate yard improvements, and available properties along Palm Drive were presented. In February of 2021, the main focus was finding a property along Palm Drive. Various other properties were researched with an offer presented on one of them. That was the 14866 Palm Drive. In March of 2021, an RFQ for architectural and real estate broker services was issued and closed the following month in April of 2021. The California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, discussions were also introduced into our presentations at that point. Continuing in April 2021, the district received responses on the RFQ that was opened. There were 16 for architectural and 0 for real estate broker services. In addition, the Two Bunch Palms Trail site was discussed. Later that year in July, the contract with Renault Clark Architects, RCA, was approved to review the 2 locations. The property sale at 14866 Palm Drive was ultimately delayed and removed from consideration. So the decision was then made for RCA to focus only on the Two Bunch Palms trail location. Going forward to November of 2021, a tour took place of the East Valley Water District with MSWD staff and members of the board of directors. In March of 2022 through December of 2022, there were various meetings held with the city of Desert Hot Springs. And in September of 2022, the first progress set of plans was received by MSWD. In the following year, January 2023, we had a meeting with the city about the Wright Regional Wastewater Reclamation Facility and the new MSWD Critical Services Center. In addition, Tom Dodson and Associates were hired to advise on the MSWD Critical Services Center and Administration Building CEQA compliance. Jumping forward to May of 2023, additional meetings were held with the city, the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission, and Dodson and Associates regarding the MSWD Critical Services Center and Administration Building CEQA compliance. There was also a second tour of the East Valley Water District that was held. Then in August of 2023, Renault Clark and Architects presented 5 possible layouts for the Park Lane corporate yard location. In addition to some of the other alternate properties that were considered and researched, other MSWD properties were also considered, including the existing administration building location, the Nancy Wright Regional Wastewater Reclamation Facility or well site, and the corporate yard. Since then, we have performed additional research to try to find a suitable alternative location for the new MSWD buildings. However, we have run into various issues such as zoning issues, cost issues, and additional CEQA issues. On the following screens, you'll see some of the various properties that have been researched. So there's 15th Avenue, there's mostly residential land, Mineral Hot Springs resort land, and then there was one in the industrial cannabis zone of the city as well. This slide here presents a side-by-side view of the alternate locations that were researched approximately 2 weeks ago to try to find available properties in addition to some of the past properties as well. So side by side, you can see the breakdown of the costs per acre, square foot, whether or not there were CEQA issues, and the notes on those CEQA issues, and then with links to the listings and prior and other notes as well. With this, I will now pass the presentation over to Alvin from Renault Clark Architects to go over more details on the proposed Park Lane corporate yard location. And Alvin, I will control the slides for you. Take it away.
Thanks, Will. Good afternoon, President Martin, members of the board, and district staff. Like Will was mentioning, in August, we presented a handful of options, and this is one of the options that we presented. And again, the purpose of this was a feasibility study to go through, would it be possible to fit the program that had been designed for the new Critical Services Center on the corporate yard site. And based on those options that we did, those explorations, we were able to find a handful of viable configurations. And the challenge there was taking about 9 acres worth of developed site that we had at the Two Bunch Palms to about 5.5 acres that we could develop on at the corporate yard. And again, based on the feedback that we had last time, I think one of the big questions was how does this pencil out in terms of costs? So if we can go to the next slide, Will. So what we did right now is just do a quick planning purposes cost comparison between the two sites. So at the top, you'll have Park Lane, and on the bottom, you have Two Bunch Palms. With the assumptions that the admin building and the M&O building aren't going to change between the two sites, the primary cost differential will be in the site improvement. So again, there's that reduction from about 9 acres to 5.5 acres, and it pencils into about a little over $3 million worth of difference if we just do, again, a very preliminary planning purpose cost per acre. And I think last time we spoke, we had talked about there being maybe a potential savings about 30%. And based on what we looked at here, again, not just going to a smaller site, but also reducing certain program elements. Again, the primary program elements are the same, the admin building and the M&O, but certain other areas like the demonstration garden, we looked at potentially shrinking that as well. So not only we're going to a smaller site, but there's certain program elements from the previous site design that were also reduced. And I think that's all kind of accumulating to that additional savings that that we would have by moving to the Park Lane site. And then the next slide, Will. So this was just another quick study just to see. So as Will was saying, lots of other sites were also taken into consideration. So looking at the existing administration facility and trying to do an exploration on what it would take to get that facility paired with the corporate yard to meet the current needs of the district. So with this, the admin building would need to have some improvements. The idea is maybe keeping some of those improvements minimal with some expansion to meet some of the current needs. Also at the corporate yard, having to add additional facilities there to meet OSHA requirements. So restrooms primarily, but also a new training facility and the potential for a new kitchen. And then also trying to do the warehouse expansion. So, and I think that's maybe about half the same square footage that we had previously planned. And this pencils out to about that 21 mil when you first see that. So I think looking at this as what we would maybe consider a bandage solution to the current needs of the district, but also trying to factor in, working with Will, what we were looking at is operational costs and maintenance costs as well. So once you start incorporating those costs in there for the next 20, if not 50 years, plus the drive time, because you're going to have disparate facilities, having to factor in that drive time is actually going to be very important to fully understand the cost impact of, again, not having everything in a central location. So that bottom line number on this page ends up being closer to 33, if not 34 mil. Again, looking in the far future. So, and compared to the other two, well, if you don't mind, maybe go back to the previous slide. I didn't do the top line numbers. So for the Park Lane site, we're looking at 30.5 mil. And then for the Two Bunch Palm site, 34 mil. And again, these are taking a step back and trying to do a preliminary planning costs to make sure that we can pair everything equally, since for instance, at the existing administration facility, there will be slightly different costs just because of the nature of that work versus at the Two Bunch Palm site is basically an empty site that we're able to just build the new facility on. And if we can go back to the next slide one more time, Will, apologize for this. And also at the corporate yard, the only difference in terms of cost that we were looking at is because the new facilities that we're going to be adding are at a much smaller scale. That cost will come at a premium, basically we're looking at, because there's about maybe 6,000 square feet of new facility versus the close to 40,000 square foot of new facility at the Two Bunch Palm sites, then there's basically an upcharge for that cost. So that square footage is going to be a little bit more expensive just because you get that economy of scale when you go to a much bigger facility or ordering that much more material. And then I think we can go to the final slide, Will. Thank you. So looking at next steps and where we go from here. So just looking at these examples that we just spoke about, the corporate yard does look to pencil in on a number of different aspects. Looking at just land acquisition, Will showed you very briefly some of the additional costs that the district would have to incur to purchase some of those lands. By going to a consolidated site, again, we wouldn't have to incur as much travel expenses just going back on a daily basis. Currently, there are no environmental concerns on the corporate yard versus the Two Bunch Palm site. So taking those factors into consideration, and then that cost savings, again, moving from a 9-acre site to about a 5.5 acre site will come with some cost savings. So from here, being able to look at finalizing the location where this can go. And then from there, once the site is selected, then we can go back in with a little bit more detail. So right now, again, we're just going at the feasibility level, making sure that program can fit and that there are no major hurdles to moving the facility to the corporate yard. And I think with that, Willa, that's all I had.
Okay, do members of the board have a question, Ted?
Yes, sir. You make a good, strong point here, but let me ask you a question. Can you go back to the slide to the available properties, the one on, was it Camino Carpintero, Avenida Carpintero? Right on Palm Drive there? There it is there, I believe, isn't it?
In the middle.
In the middle, yes. Yeah. And that, the price of that one is how much? $6 million?
Yes, that one's 6.4 million, breaks down to a cost per square foot of $13.11. So
Okay. I like that site because it's right in between the two. The bus stops on both sides of the street. When there's more activity there, so we'll have less vandalism, and it just seems like a better location. Now, I understand, I don't know how they're getting $6 million for it, but that's probably always negotiable. So you can please go back to the corporate yard to your cost there. What I don't see in the cost here in the corporate yard is the removal of the buildings. And I believe remove all the asphalt, regrade it, and all the work there. I'm not seeing that cost anywhere. I believe it's what, $4 a square foot just to remove the asphalt. So how much are we talking to take down perfectly good buildings that we might be able to use in the future? The location there on Camino Aventura, that there's room to grow there and expand in the future. I know the cost is a little bit more, but I think it's a better deal. So could you please answer the question of how much it's going to cost to remove the asphalt, the buildings, the grading, and prep to get this, to get what you have here, your presentation, ready to go? What are the costs?
Yep. Thank you, Director Meyerhoffen. So we do have the cost for grading incorporated into there currently, just because at the Two Bunch Palm site, there was going to be a fair amount of grading there to get it to level off where we have the new buildings. And then we understand at the Park Lane site as well, there will be some infill. So both sites would end up needing import material. So that cost is fairly balanced at this point. I mean, again, until we get a little bit more in detail to that, we can't be exact, but in terms of demolition cost, you're correct. That at this point hasn't been factored into the Park Lane development. So, and I can work on getting those and updating this presentation with those costs so we can factor that in.
Yes, I think that's an important cost.
Good point.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good catch.
Yeah, I appreciate all the work that's done on this, and I just think that the board, I'd like us to just come to some kind of direction that the Park Lane is where we want to build or where we don't want to build, because it seems like we do a lot of work, and maybe all 5 of us aren't set on that being the location. I think it's the best location after seeing the different pricing for the available land and the it looks like a lack of options. I don't think we should be building a new building here at this location if the corporate yard is going to be at another location. I'm much more in favor of having everything all in one. So I appreciate Director Meyerhoff's direction. I'd like to see those additional costs for the Park Lane, but I'd just like to, I guess, hear other directors' ideas on if Park Lane is their #1 option.
Robert?
The one thing I didn't notice in terms of looking at the current location as an option is when you're doing that construction is temporary office space. We would probably need to bring in some trailers or something, and I don't know if that's something that was factored in there. I didn't see it.
It's not.
Actually, what we're working with is knowing that the right facility will be completed by then. We'll have additional space there. We'll have men's and women's locker rooms there. We'll actually, and then we have a lot of site around that will be gravel. So we can actually move a good portion of.
No, I think you're misunderstanding. I'm not talking about if we were to take over the corporate yard. I'm talking about in the current location. If we were
if
to
we were
pursue
here?
something here on Second Street, obviously this building will probably needs to, it's like tear down, right? You're gonna need some temporary office space. Has that cost, is that in this estimate here?
It is not in this cost estimate here. We looked at that probably about 10, 15 years ago. And we're looking at those costs this morning, but they weren't added in here. So when you're looking at this particular slide here, we would add that to this where you'd have to be moving people around and things of that nature. So it would increase that. The one thing that Alvin talked about quickly, but I just do want to bring it to everyone's attention. These costs are based on 90 people. So the planning horizon that we were looking at, we wanted to make sure to have an apples to apples comparison. This does bring up all of our facilities to that same space planning measure of 80 employees, but it also includes the upgrade for 20 years total cost, 25-year total cost. That's where the cost of having people drive back and forth, which we're doing. It doesn't take into account some of the carbon issues that are there, but what it does account for is our actual costs and how many trips a day we estimate.
I understand that.
Okay.
My
I just
question-
want to make sure that for the entire board,
Okay.
not necessarily you, but that was my one chance.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a little egotistical here today, okay?
Just today?
Just today.
Okay.
The reason I ask is that then these numbers here for the existing administration facility are really not accurate, because if you're not including the cost of that temporary office space,
It would be.
then you're not giving us a real valid number. Do you have an estimate of just off the top of your head? Since you said you were talking about them this morning, how much more that would be for, I don't know, construction's what, 18, 24 months?
Correct.
So say for 2 years to rent a couple trailers to move your displaced employees and consider there'll probably be on-street parking at that point.
Knowing that we already have a number to bring back to you for discussion as far as the demo of the existing facility, let me actually give you a true number and come back to you with that.
Okay.
So at our next meeting, we'll have that information.
Okay, I appreciate that. And to answer Director Sewell or Vice President Sewell's question. So when I look at that, and I understand why Ted would prefer that Palm Drive location, but then we're looking at adding, let's say you bargain them down to 5 million, an additional 5 million on top of that. I've always kind of leaned toward this, towards Palm Park as a really good spot for several reasons. One, it's right next to the corporate yard, so we have to do those improvements anyway. So you may as well wrap them in there. It's convenient for everybody. A lot of people like to walk in and pay cash, maybe not as convenient as Second Street, but you know, you can drop your kids off at the library, walk over, pay your bill, go back, pick them up, whatever. There will be a light there, I do know that. And it is on a bus line. And so it's, for me, and honestly, I think that fact alone is much better than all the way down at Two Bunch where there is no bus line. And knowing that there are plans to continue, what is that, Verbena down there they're talking?
Correct.
Once they do the stormwater improvements, that they do plan on paving that as a pass-through. It's kind of a no-brainer to me. That would be my preferred location. So to answer your question, Ivan, there you go. I'm done.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, it seemed to me originally, in terms of using the existing facility, we were going to start, the idea was to start construction and get the new facility 75% finished and not move until that portion was in, and then do a remodel or demolition of this building. So there wouldn't be any rental office space. There was original idea, at least that's what I was led to believe. So of course that was a long time ago. So things change. And
You are correct. If we were to build something here next door, as we talked about the 11,000 square foot building, I believe that was the intent, was to move
keep everybody here for that period of time and go next door. You're absolutely correct. The other version that we were talking about, and that's what's on this screen to the left, is the entire building being built here, and then we would have to demo. But as you can see, it is relatively tight. It doesn't take into account some of the grading issues that we have because the street elevations are completely different. So it fits barely, but it certainly doesn't include the option. Well, and then we lose the revenue for the cell phone tower. So in reality, I think the intent for this particular slide in that conversation was that while it may fit on the property in general, it certainly doesn't provide us all the room that we need. And then we lose revenue and some other things. So it was why this site was taken off the list so quickly. But you're absolutely right. If we were to do the 11,000 square feet, we would move people in that direction.
Yeah, Amber?
Thank you for all this work. And I agree with Director Sewell. It seems like we haven't been very decisive in giving them instructions, and a lot of money's been spent figuring these questions out that we all have. To answer Director Sewell's question, I agree with Director Griffith. I have felt this for a long time. The corporate yard seems to make the most sense to me. And given that there's apartment buildings getting built there, the streets are going to be paved, there's county offices there, the library there, the park there. There are a lot of public activity there that makes it kind of a hub. The bus line, the accessibility to our community, moving it into a commercial retail priced property, to me, is something we just simply can't afford. We can't afford $13 a square foot under any circumstances. And I think that the city is less likely to rezone for us, as we're not retail or commercial. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind, is that, you know, they're hoping to make money off of that property, and we're not going to be doing that for them. So they're not going to have much incentive to lower the price for us. But I do feel that the corporate yard is a logistical no-brainer in some ways, logical in a lot of ways. I still question the size of the building as it sits, but to refer to apples, you know, to be able to review apples to apples, it made very good sense to do the presentation the way that you did. I know that I've made that comment to our general manager several times, but I do feel that it's a little grandiose for our needs. We need to be able to grow, and we're going to continue to grow, and we need a safe place for our employees, somewhere that they can feel proud to be. And we absolutely want that for them as much as we want it for the public. But I would think that moving forward on the corporate yard, I still would like the board to discuss the size. And that's it for me. Thank you.
One additional thing is that at what time do you estimate, or when would you estimate that we would have to make a decision on which site to pick?
That is completely up to the board. Currently we are experiencing some space issues at this location. And even at the corporate yard. However, once the right facility is done, we'll be able to move some people around in that perspective. And we still have some available space in the annex. We just haven't moved people over there or upgraded that, thinking that we can live with what we have for the next couple of months and then hopefully have something else to look forward to. So we've delayed a couple of things in moving people around with the hopes that the corporate yard or a smaller building, whatever the board's desire, once we get that direction, then we can start moving down that path. But at this point, we know that this is a very important project for the district and the board. We want to make sure that we make the right decision for the right reasons. So as far as a time frame, that's completely up to the board, because I want the board to fully feel comfortable with the decision, because it is going to be something we're going to live with for the next 50 years.
Well, I would say, based on what I've heard, that we're close to being able, and in our mindset, to select a location. I think we've all come with thoughts on the right location, and I don't think there's a lot of separation in that. So,
if you're done, the Camino Futuro, it is closer to the library and public transportation, the county office. It's a lot closer there. And we have to also realize that some of that cost will be offset. And we need to probably find out how much this building and the rest of the land here is valued at. and what are we gonna do with this? If we're gonna sell this for, $3 million along with all the land and everything, if that's what it is, that really brings down the cost of a different location. And then you put in how much it's gonna take to tear down the buildings down there.
Yes.
If I could, I think I would like maybe by December for us to pick a location and then talk about possibly downsizing the size a little bit and maybe have a final yay, go or no by January or February. I think, we've kind of drug this out a little bit for reasons that we all know. But I think, time is of the essence, and also, the longer we wait, the more it costs. And so I would at least by December hope that we could just finalize a location and give staff direction so that they're not hanging in limbo and can get on to other things that we need to worry about over the next year in terms of our capital improvement. So
I would be open to downsizing the location if it was built to be expanded at later time, depending on need. So if we could design it such that we could expand it when necessary,
So
we wouldn't have to do the full project right away, and it would save us some money initially. But then on the other end, it might cost us more as inflation goes up later down the road.
President Martin, when you say downsizing, you're talking about downsizing the actual building, not the actual site?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my thought. Amber, do you have something else?
Just one more. Could you, I think his name was Will, right? Could you put up the screen that listed all the properties in a row again for us?
Yes, not a problem.
Okay, so all right, so there will be the property that Director Marhoffen is talking about at the $13.11 a square foot will require no CEQA because there's been building on that property, or because it looked like an empty lot to me.
In reviewing the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission's website and their habitat model maps, I did not see any CEQA restrictions on that property.
Yeah, let me add to that. The CEQA, yes or no? Is there an overlay that would stop us from building on that site? In this particular case, there is not.
Okay.
However, we would be required to do a CEQA in phase 1 and all of those things as part of the purchase and the development of that site. So why it says no here, the intent here was to show, is there anything on this site doing our due diligence before we even start looking?
We're getting to know each other. You knew what I was asking. Thank you for that clarification. So, so to just, again, apples to apples. So will the corporate yard require those CEQA costs that you were referring to that the Camino Aventura would require? Or that our that our current Second Street would require?
So no matter where we build, we're going to be causing a disruption, whether it be traffic, whether it be environmental, whether it be, stormwater discharge. So there would be some level of environmental clearance that we would have to go through. Not knowing that site as well as I do the other two sites, they would be amendments at these two locations. They would be part of something we've already done in the past. So the cost would be a little more significantly less. We've already walked that site at the corporate yard at the request of the board before, finding nothing there, no burrowing owls or anything like that. It has been completely disturbed. So the places that we're building, we do have control of that. So I would say that the CEQA amendment there would be the easiest from a CEQA perspective of any of the properties, including the ones that are listed.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And just for clarification, I believe that the Camino Aventura property, the zoning on it, I think is residential with an overlay of commercial. So I'm not sure where that's at. I know that the Walmart property was right next to it, was zoned for that.
The documentation they showed us specifically said commercial and retail. So if that was the zoning for it, they're not going to lower those prices.
If there's an overlay of that, then sure, that's what it would say, yes. And if you do look into that, interim general manager Macy, they were out there on that property taking core samples. So that part of it's already done. So you may, if you do look into that property, the core samples there have been done already.
Just so I'm clear, I'm going to present a couple of different things at our next meeting. The cost of the demolition at the corporate yard, office space rental, if it's necessary. We'll go back to what we had last time and bring that forward to a cost today. One of the things that we didn't talk about was because the contract with Ronald Clark had 2 sites, everything that they've been doing for us is part of the original contract. When we move forward if we do decide on Park Lane, which it sounds like we're going to, I'm very happy to hear that, we would have to ask them for an amendment to mirror the building and then make some site adjustments there. So it'd be an amendment to their contract. I may be putting too many words into Alvin's mouth, but one of the things we talked about when we had to mirror the building, there was going to be a cost update to plans and things like that. If you're talking about maybe 2,000 square feet, because the space planning was clear that 90 employees is what we had, and that's what they had at East Valley. That's why we mirrored that, or that's why we're using that as a template. If we were to simply remove 1 or 2 column lines to reduce it by 2,000 feet, then you're looking at 2,000 times 700. That's an additional 1.4 million savings at $700 per square foot. So if it's something that easy, just for discussion purposes, I'd like to ask them for a proposal to do exactly that. What would it cost to do the site, reduce it by 2,000 square feet, and then we'll bring all of that to you for consideration at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I throw a smoke?
Sure.
Something in your smoke. Should we reduce the size? Could they provide, even if it's today's time, the cost to expand to the original size? And just to compare how much it would save to just build the footprint as is versus having a second phase.
We can look into that. Yes.
I'm just
the issue with the way we've got the building orientated now, with it being diagonal across that site, adding to one side, especially the side that we're looking at based on the last rendering, would actually, you can't go north because that's where the building, but going south, we may be able to add to that. So we'll look at the configuration they come up to, and then we'll add that. Maybe it's a knockout wall, whatever. We'll add that. Am I overselling this, Alvin, or can you do, is that something?
Nope, you're good.
Perfect.
I wanted to bring up, Brian, that you, I believe, I'm not sure if everyone has toured the Palm Springs facility that we designed. That facility was designed exactly what you were mentioning, with future expansion in mind. So there were knocked down, that was a tilt-up construction, so slightly different than we're doing now. But the idea being that they could open up walls in the future and expand the building. So we're more than capable and have done it in the past, and I think we've come with good success. As Brian was mentioning, our goal here was to, at the very minimum, design a facility that could work for the district for the next 50 years. But we understand that, today versus 50 years from now might be a little bit different, but giving you at least the flexibility to that would be, well within our ability, and a goal that we would share with the district.
And I'm highly influenced by the fact that we built a regional wastewater treatment facility with future expansion in mind when we designed the project. So that's something we took into consideration for that project. So it might be something to explore for this one as well.
I have one more question, the $1 million question. How are we financing this, and how much grant money are we looking at getting in the future to do this?
The only grant funding we've secured for this project to date would be $100,000 grant for the demonstration gardens. As far as the financing of this project, we do have available cash reserves that we could use, or we could go out and finance that. That's where the long-range financial plan will come in and answer those questions. So from that perspective, we're not bringing to you a construction contract at this point, but when we are ready to do that, if we do decide to move forward with the building, we'll have the long-range financial plan, and this project will be part of that presentation.
So have we looked for grant money of any kind for this?
Absolutely. We're continually looking for grant money as far as the solar we've talked about. There's charging station money out there. There's a lot of different things that are available to us that we've never actually put in any applications because we didn't know if we were going to have a building or a site. So the nice thing is we'll have 1.5 years for the construction to take place, and we'll be actively pursuing all the grant funding we can to do a variety of different things, not to mention bringing back to you potentially some type of solar project, because we do know that we have some deadlines associated with some of the applications we have into SCE.
That's all fine, but That's kind of like saying putting the cart before the horse. We don't have the building built yet. So having grant money for a charging station is kind of, to me, is irrelevant at this point. Thank you.
Okay, anything further on that? Thank you. We'll move on then to the district holiday schedule. Item 14.
Thank you, Alvin. Appreciate your help. Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Number 14, district holiday schedule. This item is for discussion purposes, much like we've done in the past. We come to the board at this time of year and start talking about potentially closing the offices between Christmas and New Year. It's similar to how the city handles the holidays time as well. It's something we've done in the past. If we do have staff that will be here from a standby perspective, and any staff that doesn't take vacation during that, they will report, they will be supervised and things of that nature. So we won't be missing a beat when it comes to operations or reaching out to our customers, but we just wanted to make sure that the board was okay with us closing the office. This is a no cost decision. It allows some of the staff to take the vacation at that time. But in addition to that, it's something that we want to make sure the board's still consistently on the board. I believe it's the first time we've asked 3 of you about this question and talked about it. So didn't want, if somebody's expectations has changed or the board's expectation, we just want to give a heads up that that's something that we have done in the past and we'd like to do this particular year. With that being said, if I can get concurrence that it's okay to close at least the front door, we'll still have people here. And if the phones ring, we've been talking about that. We will have the phones can be on and things like that. We won't do any shutoffs or anything like that. So we don't expect to have a lot of payments coming in or a lot of dispatching of staff. It's just really more of a skeleton crew with the doors closed.
So you want is okay?
Go ahead.
You want a skeleton crew here between Christmas and the New Year? What you're saying?
A smaller staffed crew. Skeleton is more, yeah. But yes, we'll still have staff here.
So in any kind of language, what does that mean exactly?
Instead of being fully staffed, we'll have roughly probably 25 people here, maybe 30. I don't know what the vacation requests are off the top of my head. I know a lot of our operation staff does stick around between the holidays, but I know some of our management and some of the office staff here will take the time off.
What you're looking for is the flexibility on making those decisions when they arise.
Correct.
So you want the flexibility of them taking vacation time is what you're
Correct.
saying.
Correct.
So that's why you said there was no additional cost.
Correct. And that's a good question. During COVID, we actually gave vacation during that time frame because of the things that the staff was having to deal with and all the disinfection and all the other things. So that's another distinction. And thank you for reminding me of the 3 with your question. This is not what we're asking for. That was true vacation between the holidays. This is simply just to close the office.
Okay, let's move on to item.
What I just want, if I don't want to actually ask for a vote, I don't think it's necessary, but if there's any objections to that, please let us know at this.
And I guess
It's just a
just
discussion
to
item.
clarify, what will it be just that week that the doors will be closed?
Correct, between the 2 holidays, Christmas and New Year's. Yes.
I'm fine with that.
Do you want to vote from the board, or?
I don't think a vote is required. It's just consensus that it's okay to go ahead and close.
I trust your judgment. That's my answer to that. So however you want to handle it.
Director Duff.
How many years have you done this?
I've been here for 4 years. I believe all 4 years we've done that, and we've done it even before I got here. So go ahead.
So I have no issue with that. And just to interject, if any of the board members do, I think that it should be discussed for the following year, as staff tends to plan on things like that. And so when you change in the 9th hour, so to speak, that's kind of not fair to their expectations of standard processes. So I'm in concurrence with you moving forward as you normally have. And if any of the board members have any concerns about that, I think they should be brought up for the following year, 2024. Thank you. Maybe. I don't know.
Okay, do you have the direction that you?
I do. Thank you so much, board.
So we'll move on to the consent agenda. There are 2 items on the consent agenda: the approval of minutes for October 5th, 2023. That's a continued meeting, public hearing. Also, October 5th, the strategic planning workshop, October 12th, continued meeting public hearing of September 18th, and October 16th, the board meeting. Also in the consent agenda is a register of demands totaling $3,436,601.85. Does anybody want to pull an item from the consent agenda for discussion?
Register of demands, please.
Okay, we have the register of demand. Anything else? Okay, I'll open the for discussion, item 16, register of demands. Amber?
Just have a couple questions. Maybe Mr. Siha could join us. And I'm not sure if you'll have the answer to this question, as you may have to look it up, and that's okay. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I was flying yesterday, so I didn't have the opportunity to send you my questions ahead of time. But there were several on October 19th. There were several payments to one of our vendors, TKE, and they were for invoicing July and August. I'd like you to look into the contract to find out what the invoicing terms are. It really affects our budgeting if we're paying so many months in the past. And if there's a 30-day contractual obligation for them to submit in a timely manner, I would like to see them doing that. Paying for things so far in the past really kind of skews our ability to look forward at what things are costing. And then the other question I had was on 10/19, Shepherd, Mullen, Richter, and Hampton LLP, and it said MSWD v. SCE payment number 2 for 2,100. Could you please tell me what that is? I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you.
Actually, that item is one that I'll address with you later.
Okay, thank you. And then let's see. Oh, the only other question I had, and they're very minor, the Wells Fargo payment, I think it says manager overnight fees, and there were 3 of them, and they're kind of minuscule, but this is us FedExing. Is this us FedExing our payments? And can't they, as a bank, facilitate the ability to pay them by wire so we're not paying extra money FedExing them back and forth?
The answer to that is when we changed over for having them send the checks directly for us, we opened the opportunity for us to get those checks back to us if we have to send them with an additional piece of paper, like a certification or something like that. So in order for us to get it immediately, they have to be FedEx to us. So it is actually a check that is being sent back to us so that we can add the additional information that we then need to send. We've allowed only a few of those if in cases of that we have to do that. Otherwise, we're writing them in-house. But because we're making so many changes, it's a lot easier for us to keep using that process where they can do it within a day or two.
Okay, that answers my question. And I know that you're conscientious of those things, even though they're small, but I just needed a better understanding of what we were doing. Thank you so much for clarifying those. And that's all I had.
Any other questions regarding the register of demands? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, the approval of minutes, and the register of demands.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
Yes.
Director Duff,
Yes.
Director Griffith,
Aye.
Vice President Sewell,
Yes.
and President Martin.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to reports. Director's reports. Ted, why don't you lead off?
Okay. It's like a economic report with the Coachella Valley, what's the rest of that? CVEP, Coachella Valley
Economic Partnership.
Economic Partnership, thank you. And that was very informative. Sometimes I go to these meetings and I sit there and I wonder why am I here as a board of director for the water district. So in this particular meeting, I had to say, how does this relate to the board? And when they went over the figures of the income of people, how much the housing cost, and it dawned on me how important it is for the district to make sure that we keep our rates down. Because that rate that we get, that they have to pay, goes into account on their mortgage payment when they go to apply for the loan. So it's very important that we did see these figures, and it just reminds me of how much we need to really watch what we're spending to keep those rates down. And the next one was the Palm Springs State of the City. And that was one of those where we just went to support other people, meet new people. I believe there was somebody there, if I remember correctly, that I had a question, and I introduced them to Miss Champion so she could answer that question. So that was a very, very interesting state of the city. I enjoyed it. The choir was there, the gay men's choir. They were really, really good. And then the next one was the VIA Network Night, which is always good. Ryan, you joined me for that one, right? And at that meeting, I was able to sit down and meet somebody that was into the shade cloth business and was telling me how they could build asked me about parking structures and how they could build the metal parking structures, come back later and put solar panels on those. So there again, I introduced them to our interim general manager. And next one was the Desert Valley Building Association mixer. And that gave President Martin and I some time to speak. Oh, wait, that was this month, wasn't it?
That was this month.
Okay. So to tell you the truth, oh no, that was Purple Energy, right?
Hot Purple Energy, yeah.
Yes, Hot Purple Energy.
That was last
Okay.
month.
And I had a little chance to talk with a developer there that I found was in General Manager Macy's office the other day speaking, and really a nice gentleman and very knowledgeable in the building industry. And he's had some dealings with our general manager here before. And then we go down here to the non-compensatable ones. The webinar there on the internet. Or I should say Zoom or whatever it was. I haven't done that one yet because we were at another meeting when that took place. So I got to go back and finish that one. Palm Springs State of the District was at the Palm Springs High School. And I was very impressed with the students there and how polite they were. And it was really, really a great opportunity to see what was going on there with our younger generation. And it was nice. And then at the Cabot's mixer, there again, met somebody who had a question, introduced him to Miss Champion. And it was nice that we were able to go into Cabot's Museum and see upstairs. I've never seen upstairs. I was relating to somebody that and Councilmember Pye remembers when I was on the Parks Commission going back 20 some years, that how the Parks Commission used to oversee it. And so that the people that are doing what they're doing now are doing a wonderful job, and it's come a long ways in that last 20 years. And thank you, Councilmember Pye, for keeping an eye on that. And that's it for me, folks.
Okay, very good. Ivan?
I went Thursday.
Yeah, oh, that's right. That's right. Amber?
All right, so the planning commission meeting at Desert Hot Springs for October 10th was canceled, so nothing to report. On the 11th, I also joined the other directors at the CVP economic report, and I too found the data very interesting. It kind of helped me understand some of the housing crisis that our city in particular is experiencing when they tell us that the average household income of our city allows for a $1,200 a month mortgage or rent, and there's nothing available at that price in our city. Kind of tells you what the problem is. And then I also found the keynote speaker from England. He was very interesting, but his opening statement was one of those where I have to repeat it. He said that upon arriving there in the desert, he found it so interesting at how green all of the resorts and golf courses, and we were in La Quinta, were, given that we're in a desert, and that from a futurist perspective, he was very surprised at the lack of community future planning for sustainability. And I just thought that was a very interesting statement from someone so far away from our valley and a visitor to kind of be shocked at the possible lack of sustainability conversation when it comes to these oasis resorts and the golf resorts. And it was something I wanted to repeat. It was just very interesting observation. Then on the 13th, a couple days after the original Aqua webinar for Chromium 6, I did do the where you can play the Zoom, and I got to listen to the Chromium 6 webinar. Very interesting. There are so many options that they are in the middle of reviewing and finalizing as being some cheaper options for us as a water district to remove that Chromium 6 from some of the wells that we've got. On the 17th, I did another Aqua webinar regarding the illicit cannabis and the effect on our groundwater. Primarily, a lot of it was Northern California. A lot of it was Humboldt and the issues that they were tackling there. And then some of it was San Bernardino County, which is a dry county in the cannabis industry. And so they are very attacking as far as going after those illicit businesses. And they were very proud of their success rates. I also attended the Desert Hot Springs Historical Society Soup Supper and learned of a lot of places for my family that we need to check off the list of places to go. It was very wonderful to hear. Also joined other directors at the Palm Springs Unified School District Legislative Breakfast Update. Loved that the students did the presentation. I thought that was really wonderful. We had 2 top students from DHS that were included in that as presenters, and it was really great to see them represent our city. And again, I thought that was a really well done event, and I enjoyed participating. And that's it.
Very good. Robert?
I'll try and keep it short, but it's a long list. October 3rd, I attended the DWA board meeting. They had a discussion of the state water contractors meeting. Also discussed we received 5,000 acre feet in recharge, but we will not receive more this year. I know that Tropical Storm Hillary has kind of damaged a lot of what they can do. There was some ranting about us that usually goes on by a certain individual. October 4th, I attended the California Water Resources Control Board workshop in Sacramento. It was a long day. Got to speak about the challenges that we face in their numbers for what we need to reduce our water use by 2030. It's my understanding I got some feedback here. Where's Kurt? It's my understanding we have a meeting next week. Is that correct?
Yes, to go over those numbers.
Okay,
Yes.
That's actually this week, 22nd.
Yes.
Wednesdays, perfect. Very long day. October 5th, I did the strategic planning workshop here. October 10th was the CVWD board meeting. It was a nighttime meeting, which kind of threw me off. And they did their closed session first, did the consent calendar, and then they just pulled all their action items. So it's a nice short meeting. I was happy because, it's almost my bedtime at that point. October 11th, I also did the CVEP Economic Summit. I won't bore anybody with the details. Also, thank you, Director Meyerhofer, for reminding me that I forgot to go back and look at the Aqua webinar on Chrome 6, because that was when we were, that started when the CVEP Economic Summit ended, and I was not home at that time. So October 12th was our study session. October 16th was our board meeting. October 17th was another DWA board meeting with no action items. October 19th, the PSUSD legislative breakfast. I agree with Director Duff. It was great to have the kids kind of run that meeting. Very good. That's really good experience because a lot of people don't get that public speaking experience. And so it was actually pretty cool. And then October 24th, CVWD board meeting. They did a presentation on stormwater update. They have 1 large stormwater project they're breaking into 3 because of the costs. And so, and Tropical Storm Hillary really placed urgency on some of those because one of the sections was the part that hit Cathedral City. So there is urgency. There's just a lack of money for these billion-dollar projects. And October 25th, I also did the mixer at Cabot's. It was a nice time. I had a great time. Saw everybody there. So that wrapped up my busy October.
Okay, very good. On October 3rd, I attended a city council meeting, and the main thing for me was being introduced to the new city manager, Frank Lucchino, whose effective date at starting was this November 6th. He comes to us from via 29 Palms, city of Blythe. He was also city councilman 4 years in Yucca Valley. But of particular interest to me was that he was the assistant GM of High Desert Water Agency. And it was nice. It's nice to have somebody in the city manager's position with a background knowledge on water issues. On the 11th, Coachella Valley Economic Partnership Economic Report at the Renaissance Esmeralda. It was a well-attended event, nothing to report here. On the 17th, Palm Springs State of the City. Again, a well-attended event. I don't want to add any more than what's already been said, but it was very enjoyable. On the 19th, DVBA Mixer at Hot Purple Energy. One of the things that, of course, I don't know whether everybody knows, but the owner of Hot Purple Energy is Nancy Wright's nephew. And if you recall in the press not long ago, there was a guy who was stranded in the desert, was trapped underneath his motorcycle for 3 or 4 days and almost died. Well, that was the owner of Hot Purple Energy, Nancy Wright's nephew. I didn't know that until I was there. Anyway, on the 31st, Riverside County Board of Supervisors meeting. Again, a tough subject comes up a lot. Short-term rentals. Issues that they have dealing there. Distribution of Cal State priority funding. There's an ordinance concerning ambulance regulations and a grant fee collection on behalf of abandoned vehicle abatement service. Not a very interesting meeting, to be honest with you. I also attended, not compensated for the 5th of October, Desert Valley Builders Association, their legislative meeting. They had the Palm Springs Unified School District State of the District, the foundation. Funding for additional teaching efforts. This presentation on college mentoring, engineering expertise, wellness centers, arts education, student athletics. On the 23rd, again, Cabot's Museum board meeting, the budget presentation, briefing on events held at the museum. On the 25th, Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce mixer at Cabot's. And that was a nice event. I enjoyed that. And that concludes my report. So moving on to General Manager's report.
Thank you, President Martin. In your board packet, there is a general manager's report that talks about all the activities going on here at the district. In addition to that, the financial report and public affairs report will be discussed today. I present to you Arturo Ceja, Director of Finance.
Thank you, Interim General Manager Macy, President Martin, and members of the board. I will be giving you an update on the report. There's something going on with the screen. The previous presentation is stuck here somehow. There we go. While I pull up the report, I wanted to cover a few things that were discussed from last month. I was not able to attend the regular board meeting, but the previous Thursday, Director Duff, you had asked about several account refunds that were shown in the Register of Demands. That is the normal process for a lot of our tenants that we do have because we do require a deposit. When we do close the accounts, it ends up having a credit on the balance that then we have to turn around and send them. The reason why there was a lot of them in September in August, right before we went to the CSDA conference, I reviewed the report and saw a few that were very minor. And in trying to figure out a better way to get this done with not only for staff, but also for customers, I asked staff to review them and identify what we could do better to make it happen. In holding them off, I was not able to approve them until September. That's why there was so many in September. But in this month, you'll see them. It's a regular process, but we are trying to find a better way to make it work, obviously, that we can save not only staff time, but make it so that customers get that money faster. You also had asked about the Skyborn project and that refund. That is a separate project in itself that we could close at that point in time. We don't want to hold off anything else for a small refund that has to do with connection of a few accounts and so forth. So that was the main reason why you saw a check being written to them. We are in the process of finishing the audit right now. And that is going very well. We'll be able to present the audit report in December. They received all of the comments from the board with one exception, Director Meyerhoffen. They are resending that letter to you that I'll be able to place on your inbox so that if you have the time and would like to respond to that audit letter, you may do so. Otherwise, they have received the answer from pretty much the other board members. We are working on a management calendar that it was not discussed before, but all of the managers are going to be on that calendar so that we can show whenever any of us executive team are off. And we'll be sharing it with the board. That way, whenever you want to see who is not here, you'll be able to easily identify who's off for the regular Friday, who's on vacation, or whatever other time off we may have. We're putting the finishing touches for that so that we can share it with all of the board members, and you can see at any time who of the management team is not here. Including the mid-year budget. We're working on that right now just to get that finished to present to you in January, and of course, bring it back to you for any information that you want to add in there. The numbers are looking pretty good in terms of how we're dealing or how we are trending with the actuals. So I'm going to present right now. Share screen. And as you can see, pretty much the month of, we were able to bring it back to current to the month of October. The previous month we had reported was August, and now we have 4 months worth of information to present. Revenues are trending in line with the budget of $7.4 million versus $7 million budgeted. Actual expenses as well, they're trending lower. Primarily because of the timing of when we get some of those invoices. We are addressing particular vendors that we do get some of those invoices later than what we would like. Obviously, if they affect a grant, that is even more important for us to be on top of them. And we are following up with those in particular. Non-operating revenue is higher than expected, primarily because of the collections from the Skyborn project and the additional funds that we received there, in addition to the operating expenses pretty much being in line with a little bit better than expected. The debt service ratio is currently at 7.8%, 7.8 times our monthly revenue that we can afford in terms of debt payments. The interest investment return keeps going up. Wells Fargo, because we did collect the first payment from the state, is earning interest again. So the amount that we're paying for the cost of that, having that cash available, is very minimal at this point. And we're sitting currently at $53 million in the bank, both combined with the Wells Fargo and also our CalTrust funds. And they are also starting to make up for those large decreases in the market that we had at the beginning of the year. So we were able to, if we needed to pull those funds, the losses will not be there anymore. So I'm grateful for that. And you can see again, compared to last year when we were spending all that money for the regional plant, it is now back, but we are still obviously waiting for some of those refunds. It is not completed. That is in the process right now, and comparing this year to last, again, we're trending better for that reason. And at this point, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board? On the financial report, you don't have?
I just want to thank you for following up on my previous month's questions. And you did a really good job getting us caught up from the last couple months. I know that with the big financial plan and the audit that you're in the process. It's tough because the numbers are so fluid, but this is great. You're doing a great job. And I'm again thankful that you remembered my questions and answered them. Thank you.
Very good. Robert?
I know it's snowing somewhere hot, so I expect some here this winter because she had no question.
Ivan?
I know in the past you used to give us the printouts of this sheet. I'm assuming you pull it the day of. That's probably why it's not in the packet.
And thank you for your question. Because we are getting caught up in the help that we're getting, this is starting next month, will be included in the GM report.
Okay.
So you actually have it a lot sooner, including a few more details that we're presenting with the capital improvement projects that usually don't make it to this report. We'll be adding to that as you've been requesting. So thank you. It's yeah, we're making those changes as well.
Thank you.
Ted? No questions? Thank you, Artur. And we're going to go to the public affairs report.
Good afternoon again, and thank you very much for having me today. I do have a short PowerPoint that Dory's going to pull up that I'd like to share with some of the activities from the last month. Of course, additional information is included in your GM report. Go ahead, Dory. So for the Public Affairs Office, it's been a very, very busy month. Aside from hosting 2 successful Water 101 presentations, we also attended and supported various community events, including the State of the Cities for both Desert Hot Springs and Palm Springs. We had 2 Rotary events, a chamber mixer, the Palm Springs Unified Legislative Affairs Address, the CVEP Economic Summit, and 2 golf events hosted by CVCAN and the DVBA. More specific information for each of these will be included in your GM report. Later this month and in December, we have several notable events, including the Women's Club Black and White Dinner, the DHS Holiday Parade, and another Water 101, and a live stream blood drive. Speaking of the holidays, MSWD employees have 4 ways that we are asking them to help give back to our community this year. This includes a Thanksgiving canned food drive. This year, we are encouraging employees to give at least 2 cans each for a canned food drive benefiting Teen Mom charities. They will be distributing hot meals and food directly to the homeless within Desert Hot Springs this holiday season. Tomorrow is the last day for donations. Employees can provide non-perishable food, cash, or even gift cards should they choose. We are also participating in the DHS Parade of Lights taking place on December 9th. MSWD's Holiday Float Committee is busy designing this year's entry. Members of the board, employees, and their families are welcome to ride or walk alongside the float. More details will be provided as we get closer to the event. We are also holding a special snowflake employee drive, toy drive. Employees are collecting unwrapped toys for children in need this holiday season. Working through Riverside County's First 5 program, MSWD has 40 snowflake wishes from local children. The wishes vary by child and age group. Most are very modest requests. They range from things like a hoodie, sweatshirt, toy cars, or even board games. We already have all 40 of our snowflakes pledged. However, First 5 is accepting additional gifts as well. And last but certainly not least, we are also hosting another live stream blood drive on Tuesday, December 19th from 7 a.m. through noon. Both employees and members of the community are being invited to participate. We still have several appointments, so please help us spread the word. Roy, we are on slide 4 next, please. And just as the last 2 slides have touched on, MSWD has been very active in our community. In the past couple of weeks, we have been recognized for these efforts. First at the Miracle Awards, which were held on November 7th, and again at the State of the City last week. The Miracle Awards were hosted by Teen Mom Charities, to which MSWD and its employees have donated toys the past 2 holiday seasons. This year, they will be the recipients of our canned food drive. I also believe that the organizers have a special award for Director Duff and her husband for their previous work with the organization. And then last week, the Chamber of Commerce honored me for our involvement with multiple organizations, including the DHS Women's Club, the high school, Friends of the DHS Library, DHS Rotary, the DHS Cleanup Crew, and our support of homeless outreach. All of those awards are down in front in case you want to take a look at it before you leave today. I will also be adding them to our list on our website. Our new water shipment, as I mentioned briefly last Thursday, came in last Thursday. We now have new aluminum bottles of our new award-winning water, and they are available there on the dais for all of you and in the back of the room for anyone in the public. As you can see, we have gone to an all aluminum bottle that will reduce plastic waste. The new bottles are refillable, reusable, and much more earth-friendly than our previous ones. There are numerous reasons why customers view aluminum bottles as more advantageous than plastic. Aluminum is the #1 recycled material. It takes about 60 days for an aluminum can to be recycled and put back into a new product, and more than 73% of that material, as compared to a mere 3% of plastic that is recycled, will end up in that new product. I will be creating a website page with these stats, and we will be promoting this wherever we provide our bottle information. These bottles are a bit more expensive than our previous bottles, and so we will cut our 10-case donation to 5 cases per event or organization. We are also reaching out to this. We are also reducing the city's allocation as well. Should the city or any of these organizations ask for more or need more additional water, we'll be happy to let them purchase it at cost. We are continuing, though, our research to look at other options as well. My goal and my dream is that we would someday have a paper pouch that people can drink from, something that's a little bit lower in cost, but at least for the coming year, this water should do. Go ahead, Dorian. Thank you. As most are aware, our strategic planning efforts are moving forward. We'll have our second workshop tomorrow at the DHS library. Tomorrow's session will focus on our SWOT analysis, and we'll begin to draft our SMART goals. Next week, we will meet with all employees and gather their feedback. This will be an all-employee event, specifically with employees. Then we will be back with the board again and the planning committee on December 5th, where we review and prioritize our SMART goals. We should have a final document ready for you to review sometime in January. Also, in case you have not driven by it yet, our new billboard vinyl went up last week promoting proper disposal of fats, oils, grease, and wipes over the holidays. This is on the east side of Palm Drive, just north of Dillon. If you've seen some of our other communications, you'll notice this is a reoccurring theme in many of our communications this month and in December. This includes our Water Matters newsletter, which in October featured Protect Your Pipes from Holiday Cooking, payment assistant options, and an announcement of our new community survey. Our November newsletter, which will reach customers in late November, will focus on proper planting and the avoidance of invasive plants like tamarisk trees, and how to reduce water use both indoor and outdoors as the weather starts to cool off. Some of our recent media coverage includes a special collaboration with the City of Desert Hot Springs. The city and the Palm Springs Visitors Bureau have teamed up to create a video series on KMIR/MBC, and viewers are encouraged to embark on a journey throughout our city and discover Desert Hot Springs. Brooke Bear is hosting the series, and it promises a perfect blend of fun and information about our unique oasis. The second clip of the series focused on water, both our hot and cold water here in the Desert Hot Springs area, and it featured MSWD Board President Russ Martin. Once complete, the city anticipates sharing these spots on their social media and running them in the City Hall lobby. They are also being promoted in Orange County and Los Angeles County on the social media sites of the affiliated NBC stations. And here is a sneak peek of that video.
I'm sorry, I can't get
go
that
into slide
play.
mode. If you go into presentation mode. Not quite it.
There were 2 different prompts for presentations when you went to that. So I just wonder if maybe with the other presentation was.
It's in the slide.
I would also be happy to email a copy of it to all of you too, if we can't get it out today, but it's a wonderful, wonderful video. And then lastly, I also wanted to share with you that, you know, we have put the final touches on our 2024 conservation and groundwater protection calendar. We should have those calendars in our hands by the second week of December. The calendar features artwork from 12 local students, but all of the participants will receive a certificate of appreciation and a copy of the calendar for their efforts. We will be distributing copies locally at the library, city hall, and several of the small businesses around town. Customers can also request a copy to be mailed to them. Next month, I will share the winners. And I had a sneak peek video at some of the entries, but I think that'll just have to wait and you guys will get the surprise in December. With that, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. Now moving on to item 19, district council comments.
So we will have a closed session today, and it will be on item 21, which is conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, and that's the Mission Springs Water District versus DWA matter. Item 22, conference with legal counsel regarding potential initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4, and that's one potential case. Item 23, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, and this involves PFAS, or the aqueous film forming products liability litigation. And then item 24 is public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. The title of the position is the interim general manager.
Thank you. Moving on to director comments. Ted, do you have any comments you want to make?
Yeah, I really don't agree with this. I wished, and put to you this way, I think we really should have two study sessions a month where the staff can tell us what they're up to, what they're doing, what direction we're going, what money they're spending. It just, this water bottle thing here, it just doesn't offset what little contribution that we're making for plastic. Everywhere we go, we have containers where we throw our bottles in. DVD comes by and picks up the plastic bottles. The homeless, whatever plastic bottles are there, you put it in their shopping carts or throw it over their shoulder. So, and then the information here, when I go to, and you may want to double check me, Ms. Champion, it says here aluminum is the most recyclable, and it is. Now, when I go to the grocery store, I see more plastic and bottles than I do aluminum. So I'm wondering where that kind of came from. And if we're going to talk environmental issues, you missed the most important part there, Ms. Champion. Aluminum is the safest to drink out of. So you may want to put that in. Like I said, I don't agree with the cost for what reasons that we're doing it for. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I'll wait until next month for something else. Thank you.
Okay, Ivan?
Yes, just wanted to say congratulations to Marion for her award at the State of the City. All of your work really shows, and I definitely think you've put our district on the right track to improving public relations, and just every little thing you do, you're definitely known in the community, and I appreciate all the work that goes into that. And then just a happy Thanksgiving to all of our customers, our staff, to the board. I hope everyone has a safe holiday this week.
Thank you. Robert?
I was hoping we'd comment after your presentation, so I just have a question on this. And that is that it talks about US consumption per beverage type, and then types of packaging that people worry about. And number one is plastic wrappers. And then in parentheses, it has crisps and sweets. Now, crisps, these are crisps when you live in the UK. So I'm kind of curious why we're using a British term.
That was a document that was provided to us by our beverage company, the bottling company. Before we put our logo on anything, we will make sure that it
Okay.
doesn't say
It
that.
doesn't bother me. I just thought it was pretty funny. Okay, I want to say first, Marion, congratulations to Marion, Volunteer of the Year in the city. That's a fantastic thing, especially because you're not a resident. So it just really shows how much you do on behalf of the district. And I think we all really appreciate that, as do the residents. I did want to say, you can sit. Just so everybody knows, every night, Friday nights on Pearson, there is a market that took over the old Farmer in the Dale, A&G Market, and they have a little beer garden. And what I found out is that on those Friday nights, they contribute $2 from every beer they sell to a local nonprofit, which I think is a really, really nice thing for a small business like that to do. It obviously cuts into probably their profit, but they're happy to do that. And on December 15th, the Desert Hot Springs Historical Society will be the beneficiary of those proceeds. So please come out, have a beer with me. Believe it or not, they're $6, which isn't bad. And so you can come out, have a nice time on Fridays in Pearson. And Ivan went to the last one, and I'm hoping he'll go again because we need the money. And other than that, happy Thanksgiving, and I'm done.
Yeah. Amber?
Well, first, I want to back up a little bit to last weekend, and I want to say thank you to all of our veterans. I'm a daughter of a veteran, Vietnam vet, and have a lot of military active in our family, past and present. Want to thank Director Meyerhoffen. I believe you were Marine, Semper Fi.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that. Again, thank you for the service to all of our veterans. Happy Thanksgiving to all of our residents and ratepayers, and to each of our fellow directors here and the staff here at MSWD. And then for the not so fun part of my director's comments, I just want to reiterate what we talked about earlier. My expectations from receiving this agenda is to not have to proofread it. So I do want to reiterate that I do expect the reviewers of the RFPs to catch those kind of errors before we see them. It's very uncomfortable for me as a director to, in some ways, humiliate a vendor, which was not my intent and not what I ever want to have to do. But at the same time, were they talking about us, or were they talking about Rancho Palos Verdes? So the attention to detail is so, so important. And in my opinion, from what I've seen, a lot of the messes we've gotten in is because of a lack of attention to detail by previous management. Brian, you're doing a great job at changing that environment. But I just want to make sure the staff also hears it from a director, that the attention to detail can save a lot of money and time from the district. And we are expecting that of all of you that are participating in this process. So I just am getting off my soapbox now, but I just want to reiterate that I really expect the staff to read every page like I do. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. And just to follow up on the comments that Director Griffiths stated on there, just want to make one other observation. In England, this is pronounced aluminium, not aluminum. So
You enjoy it with your crisps.
I do. And with that, let's see, we're going to go into closed session, and that's going to be upstairs. Will we be coming back here to report out at the end, or do it up from up there?
We will come back down here and do it from down here on the dais.
Okay, then I won't bring my briefcase with me. Okay, so with that, meeting is suspended to go into closed session.
Dory, will we?
Okay, we're back in open session. Counselor, could we have a report on closed session?
Yes, the board met in closed session. Item number 21 was conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation that involved the Mission Springs Water District versus DWA case. There was no reportable action taken. Item 22 was conference with legal counsel regarding potential initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4, one potential case. There was no reportable action. Item number 23, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. That involved one case, case number 2-18-MN-2873 RMG, and that's aqueous film forming products liability litigation. There was reportable action taken on that item. There was a motion to opt out of the class action settlements. That motion was made by Director Griffith, and the second was by President Martin. And the vote to opt out was as follows: President Martin, yes; Vice President Sewell, yes; Director Griffith, yes; Director Duff, yes; and Director Meyerhoffen, yes. And then also there was a discussion regarding item number 24, public employee performance review pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, title interim general manager, no reportable action taken in closed session. And that concludes the report out.
Thank you. Is there anything further from the board? Anything further from staff?
No, President.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned.